So you got sued. Now what?
You're listening to Home Sellers Advantage. I'm your host, Aaron Zapata.
And I'm your other host, Todd Anderson. We are the Bald Brothers team at Impact Realty Group with Real Broker, and we are here to give you the Home Sellers Advantage.
You can find us online at www.baldbrothers.tv. Again, that's baldbrothers.tv.
Or you can call us at 833-305-BALD. That's 833-305-2253.
So we sell real estate, and we have hundreds of transactions under our belt.
That's right.
And it's inevitable that after a closing, a buyer moves in and they discover something. What do they discover, Todd?
They discover, hey, there was a water leak that we didn't know about, or they discovered mold in an area they didn't know about, or
right.
Whatever. You name it, something was discovered that maybe didn't come up in an inspection report. Maybe the seller was unaware of, and so it wasn't disclosed, and the buyer decides to do some renovations, and as they do some renovations, they uncover some things that are new developments.
And the seller says, but it's buyer beware. I disclosed everything. I'm not responsible, right? And sure enough, even if you do everything right, you go through the process and you fill out every disclosure, and you turn over all your reports. The buyer does their home inspection. The agents do their agent visual inspections. Yeah. You get through all of that, and you've been completely truthful and honest on every single paperwork. And the buyer gets in there, and this happened to me, not to me as an agent, but when I was managing a Century 21 office, like 20 years ago, I also oversaw all the legal matters at the time for the broker. And so anytime a legal issue comes up, we'd get the insurance involved, and then I would go with the attorney and the agent, and we'd go down to the wherever, mediation, arbitration, or the courtroom if necessary. So there's one situation that happened where the buyer bought the house, and then they decided to do renovation. And in doing renovation, they pull up the carpet, and then they saw that the floor had been leveled. So it, without it being leveled, it was not level. Yeah. But it had been leveled. And then they discovered termites behind the drywall. And, they blew it out of proportion. This is crazy. How can you didn't disclose that you had an unleveled, disclosure says we leveled the floor and we don't know what's behind the walls. So clearly, but they know you didn't tell us, your house is falling off down the hill and there's termites and everything's terrible. And sometimes buyers get that bee in their bonnet and they have buyer's remorse and they start to feel like they made a wrong decision. And so
and then you start to lash out and you accuse the seller of having nefarious intent or whatever the case may be.
So in this case, we all went to a mediation, and they sued the seller, they sued the agents, their agent and our agent and the home inspector, like everybody. They're mad at everybody. So we all get in this room, and
lawsuits to go around. You get a lawsuit. You get a lawsuit. You get a lawsuit. Look under your chair. You get a lawsuit.
It was terrible. It was terrible. So the inspector drives up in his very used red Honda Accord, very beat up, disheveled, dressed poorly, and he says, "Here's my contract. Did you sign this?" And the buyer's like, "Yeah." So did you read it? And he didn't show up with an attorney or anything. Yeah. It's like, no. Well, let me read this to y'all. And it says, my liability is null and void, basically for the maximum that you paid for my inspection. And you paid $425 for the inspection. Yeah. If you want my $425, I'll give it to you. Otherwise, I'm out of here. Yeah. And they're like, never mind, you're dismissed. And he got up and he left. And I was like, well, that was easy for him. But of course, with insurance companies involved, it can get very litigious and very expensive. Yeah, they settled it all in that, and it was unfortunate because even though our seller did nothing wrong and could not have known that there were termites behind the wall, and did disclose that the floor had been leveled, the buyer was mad and he got money for it. So, what do you do, Todd, in that situation? Is there anything a seller can do?
Well, the number one thing a seller can do is disclose everything that you have knowledge about. But this is a situation that you just described where the seller didn't really, they disclosed everything they possibly could. And by the way, I will mention, it's impossible for you to know every single thing there is to know about your house. I have been living with my body for 51 years, and I could not tell you where the freckles and moles are on my back because I don't see them. Maybe
terrible.
That's too much of a
Todd,
reveal.
Don't do that.
But the fact is, there's parts of your house you don't see. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And so in this scenario, really the fact is, by the way, this is one of the reasons why it's always good for the seller to agree, if the buyer requests it, to have a home warranty, because the home warranty can cover some of those things, doesn't cover all of those things. Yeah. But then we oftentimes just encourage really the buyer and the seller to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when two people talk together, they are able to work things out a lot easier than if there's all of these mediators in between. Yeah. You've got the realtor, you've got one realtor, the other realtor, you've got the inspector, you've got all these different people, and before you know it, you've created a big mess. So oftentimes it might be possible for them to work out something together.
Yeah. And your realtor is not an attorney.
Yeah.
And if you read your contract and you're a seller, it says your purchase contract is between a buyer and a seller. It is not between you and the other part it's not between you and the buyer and then you and their agents and your agent. It's between you and the buyer. Mm-hmm. And so technically the realtor is not a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So they should not offer legal advice. They shouldn't practice legal advice. And they should point you towards legal representation.
Yeah.
And like Todd just said, go meet the person. Talk to them face to face. Now, you may not want to because you feel under attack, right? But it's hard. I have found in the 25 years plus that lawsuits happen when there's a breakdown in communication. Mm-hmm. When one party stops communicating.
Yeah. Isn't that the reality of life?
Yeah. And you feel like the only course of action is legal. Mm-hmm. And so we believe that if you're open to it, that you should talk with the other party.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sue somebody face to face when you see body language, you see tonality in your voice, you meet them and you realize, oh, this person's not a jerk. Mm-hmm. They're not mean.
Yeah.
They're really nice people, and they have a family, and they've got something, right? It's harder for a person who has a heart to say, I'm still going to sue that person.
Yeah.
Work something out. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So much cheaper.
Yeah. But let's say that it gets to the point where now the buyer is threatening, well, you know what? I don't care. I'm getting an attorney involved. I'm going to sue you. I think that you knew stuff that you withheld. That then becomes a mess. So then what's the next step?
Really lawyer up.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
The bottom line is, if you have to get an attorney involved, you have to get an attorney involved. But I will say this, and now I say this not being an attorney.
Because you're not.
Because I am not. So this is not legal advice whatsoever. But my understanding is that really it is an uphill battle for a buyer to be able to prove that a seller had knowledge of something that a seller did not have knowledge of. Now, certain things can be proven. We've talked about it in different episodes. We don't need to go over all that. But the fact is we always encourage you to try to work out ahead of time, because once you have to get into a position where you have to hire an attorney, now you're spending money. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it might be easier for you just, even if you don't really have any culpability in it, sometimes it's easier just for you to go ahead and say, I'll pay for this, as opposed to getting an attorney involved. So you yourself will have to weigh what the pros and the cons are for each scenario.
And if it's if you're sold a $4 million house and a buyer comes in and has got a $1 million lawsuit, like, it's a no-brainer. You're going to talk to your attorney.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to work it out. You probably already have your attorney, and your attorney's already like speed dial on your phone. So call the guy.
Yeah. But if it's like a $3,000 fix, it might be, although you don't want to have to spend $3,000 that you shouldn't have to spend.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if attorneys get involved, that might be the easier option.
Yeah. So, and you might be totally right and still have to write the check.
Yeah.
And that's just reality. Mm-hmm. It unfortunately is the reality of the world of litigation that we live in. I have a friend who runs a business. He's got over 1,000 employees. And he says, look, I just know it's inevitable that when we terminate an employee, we're probably going to get sued.
Yeah.
And he just has an account set aside to settle lawsuits that are literally nearly every single one of them is frivolous. It's just doing business in
Welcome
California.
to America, the land of lawsuits,
Yeah.
the land of the
California.
sewers. And by the way,
California, the sewers.
California. And by the way, and I apologize to anyone out there if your name is Sue or if you're a boy named Sue. Shout out to Johnny Cash. But we're talking about lawsuits. And specifically in California, it's extra litigious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are an attorney and you want to come on our show
Yes.
and have a conversation about this, and
We
you're
welcome
somewhere
you.
in California and you specialize in real estate, man, we'd love to have you on the show and tell us if we're wrong or if we're right.
Yeah, you would have
You know?
a significant amount of insight beyond what we can give.
Yeah. Because we're just two bald guys in a
Bald
conference
guys
room
and
selling homes.
And that's what we do.
Yeah.
We,
That's what
we
do.
sell homes, you know.
So we should sell a home to Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Patrick, if you're watching,
Yeah.
give us a call.
Give us a call.
Well, we probably didn't answer all your questions and probably didn't give you any hope, but sometimes we just have to be realistic.
We
about the
just
process.
wanted a chance to talk.
Yeah, just a chance to talk. Because we see so many things in our line of work that sometimes just baffle our minds. And when buyers buy a house and they start ripping things apart, sometimes they just create a complete novel story that is fantasy.
Yeah.
And they start getting mad.
And typically it happens when buyers do start to renovate, rip homes apart. They discover things that maybe the seller wasn't aware of. Right. And the second thing is when all of a sudden you've got inclement weather that is beyond the ordinary, you know.
Yes.
2 weeks straight of nonstop rain that is not a normal thing.
Yes.
And all of a sudden
you have a water leak.
you've got water intrusion in an area that maybe wouldn't have happened normally. So
that also happened to me, by the way, back in 1998 or 9 or whatever. We had so much rain, and that was a lot of proposed litigation. A lot of that settled, thankfully, but we had so many people calling saying, "You didn't tell us about the water leak." I'm like, I lived there 12 years, 20 years. It never leaked like that. Well, you should have known. Well, it rained like this, and it never rained like that before.
Yeah.
So, we live in a drought. California, if it rains, you just wait 3 years and it'll rain again. So who are we to tell? So that's some of our thoughts on the ways to avoid litigation. But here's the reality. If you are thinking about selling your home and you want to do it on your own, totally fine. There are disclosures that are incorporated in every transaction, statutory, meaning by law, you as a seller have to give these to the buyer in California.
Whether you hire a realtor or not, you're obligated.
And when you do work with a realtor, we use our forms, which cover all of those required forms, and they're approved by the California Association of Realtors. And we give you the minimum, and then we give you a whole bunch more forms to help you through this process of disclosure, so that we can minimize the chance of you getting sued.
Yeah.
Can't guarantee it. Those buyers can sue for anything.
It rarely happens, but it does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about selling, you know what Todd and I do?
We sell homes.
Thank you for listening. Thanks for giving us part of your time today. If you thought it was helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with somebody that you think would benefit, and then we look forward to having you back here on the next show.
Yep. Until next time.
God bless. Thanks for listening to the Home Seller's Advantage. The Bald Brothers team is a licensed DBA of Real Broker, licensed by the California Department of Real Estate, number 02022-092. Again, we do not give any real estate, legal, or financial advice. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can call us at 833-305-BALD, or you can reach us online at baldbrothers.tv. Equal housing opportunity.